You're about to hear a story that the U.S. government would prefer you never think too deeply about. It's a story of a single boat in open waters, a boat the public was told was filled with drugs, terrorists, and danger. But once you look closer, the truth becomes a lot harder to label. It's impossible to ignore. Asterisk. Because on September 2nd, something happened out at sea, something that is now sending shockwaves through Washington. A military strike, ordered by the Trump administration, hit what was described as a drug boat. But when the smoke cleared, when the water settled, when the survivors of the first strike held on to life on a capsized hull, another decision was made. A second strike. This time, killing the very people who had already survived the first explosion. Asterisk, and today. One senator is defending that decision with a level of certainty that raises even more questions. Asterisk. Tom Cotton, a man known for never backing down, claims these survivors were not helpless, not incapacitated, not floating in the open sea clutching a piece of wood. He says they were moving around, trying to flip the boat, maybe even attempting to rescue the cargo. They weren't victims, but active combatants, threat. But here's where things get complicated. When pressed, Cotton admitted he was never told whether the boat was heading to the U.S. in fact. US intelligence now says the boat wasn't even pointed in America's direction. It was moving towards Suriname, and the drugs weren't destined for the U.S. at all. They were allegedly heading to Europe or Africa. Asterisk. So if the boat wasn't coming to America, there was no immediate threat to U.S. citizens, then what exactly justified killing every survivor after the first strike? Asterisk. Cotton's answer? He wants more strikes, not fewer. Any boat with drugs and people associated with foreign terrorist organizations, he says, is a valid target. Anywhere, anytime. But this is where the story becomes even darker. Behind closed doors, lawmakers received a briefing. Inside that room, military officials revealed that Defense Secretary Pete Stith personally ordered the operation to kill all 11 people on that boat because they were on what he called an internal list of legitimate military targets. And he says he'd do it again. Asterisk. Yet, despite all these claims, the administration still hasn't provided a single piece of public evidence proving that the people on the boat were terrorists, or cartel members, or even armed. Asterisk. No names, no identities, no photos, nothing. Asterisk. Just a growing number. 86 people killed in nearly 24 similar strikes in recent months. Asterisk. It's no surprise that lawmakers across Washington are demanding answers. Some are even using words that few would dare to say aloud when discussing U.S. military operations, extrajudicial killing, unlawful, potential war crime. Asterisk. Representative Adam Schiff didn't hold back. He said Americans deserve to see the video, all of it. Let the public judge what it means to target two human beings sitting on a capsized boat. And fire again. Asterisk. Because that's what makes this story so haunting. The mental image is simple. A boat flipped over, two men clinging to it, exhausted, sunburned, isolated in the vast open water. And the most powerful military on Earth sending a second strike to finish the job. Asterisk. Schiff asks the question many Americans are now whispering. Is this who we are? Is this what the U.S. does out at sea? Kill people who aren't attacking America, who aren't sailing toward America, who might not even be criminals at all? Asterisk. And here's the twist that ties the whole story in a knot. Asterisk. Cotton says the survivors might have been signaling for help from cartel allies. Or maybe they were taking off a shirt to get a tan, he jokes. He insists it doesn't matter what they were doing. It only matters that they weren't dog paddling in the water. Asterisk. Think about that logic. Not drowning equals fair game. Asterisk. On the other side, critics argue that this logic is a blank check for unchecked violence. That if America embraces the idea that any suspected trafficker anywhere in the world can be killed without trial, without identification, and without congressional approval, then where does that path end? Asterisk. Because the War Powers Resolution, a law designed to stop exactly this kind of endless military action, says that without Congressional approval, operations must stop after 60 days. Cotton says that rule doesn't apply. The presidents have always used military force hundreds, if not thousands of times without it. Asterisk, so who's right? Asterisk, and more importantly, what really happened that day at sea? Who were the people on that boat? What evidence actually exists? Why is the administration refusing to release the footage? And how many more strikes are planned under this new interpretation of presidential power? Asterisk, this story isn't over. Not even close. Lawmakers are preparing investigations. Families may soon demand answers. The public is starting to realize that the truth about these mysterious drug boats might be far more uncomfortable than the government has admitted. Asterisk, and now the question becomes, what happens next? Will this turn into one of the biggest military controversies of the year? Or will the public look away? Asterisk, if you want the full picture, the updates, the leaks, the investigations, and the testimonies, don't miss what's coming next. This story is only just beginning.